Let's start with a game from a well-known franchise that doesn't get talked about too much anymore. Strider, released in 2014, takes everything we love about the classics and translates it into an amazing Metroidvania. I really think the Strider franchise needs more games. Almost every gaming in this series is pretty amazing. Outside of the Genesis Strider Returns, yeah, I love the NES version as well. But if you think about how legendary the original arcade game was, it featured this awesome ninja with this really cool sword swipe, cartwheel style jump, ability to cling to walls and ceilings, all while fighting his way through some crazy set pieces and bosses. The 2014 release retains that spirit perfectly. You still have the cool jump, sword swipe, and wall climbs, but is now supplemented with a whole bunch of unlockable abilities and a much more robust quest. The fast hack and slash action is here completely intact and better than it's ever been, along with some incredible boss battles that just get more intense as the game progresses. This is definitely the most well-known game on today's list and was very well received when it was released, but I feel like it doesn't get the credit it deserves for being just an incredibly awesome game, and it's definitely one that needs to be remembered. Out There Somewhere is a puzzle platformer released in 2016. Your spaceship runs out of fuel and you are stranded on a planet and must find more to escape. It all starts out simple enough, but pretty quickly you get the teleport gun. Mechanically, this works really well. You just shoot the gun and you teleport to whatever it is you hit. It's a really fun gimmick and opens up some nice, clever level design. There is some combat later when you get the laser gun. It's simple enough, but the main focus is on the platforming and the puzzles, which the game does remarkably well. I never heard anyone talk about this game, so I was really surprised when I looked at its Steam store and it had over 2,000 reviews. It retails for $10. I would not buy it at full price since it is really short. I think my first playthrough was under an hour, but this is a game you should wishlist and pick it up when it's on sale. It's really fun and worth it for a couple of dollars. Stone Rid is an extremely difficult platformer released in 2013. You play as a little rock guy trying to clean the toxins that have infected the world tree. The main gimmick is there are two dimensions and you can switch between them at any time with a touch of a button. So you might get to a wall that's too high for you to jump over, and then you have to switch dimensions to find a different path or to clear out an otherwise impassable obstacle. So there is a slight puzzle mechanic to it, but really this is mostly about precision platforming. Be prepared to die a ton, as many of these challenges require razor sharp precision. There is some annoying trial and error elements sometimes, as you have to jump to a platform you can't see and then switch dimensions mid-jump. You don't always know what's in the other dimension until you hit the button, so there are some blind leaps of faith here, which I'm not a huge fan of. It would have been good for the developers to include some kind of warning system to let you know if your swap would instantly kill you. You get unlimited life, so you can keep retrying from your last checkpoint, and despite some frustrations here and there, I still really enjoy this game and its unique gimmick. It's kind of like the one seen in Gianna Sisters, although this game is definitely not as good as that. The graphics and sound are also pretty ugly in this game, but if you could look past that and just want a fun, really difficult platformer with a unique gimmick, this is probably worth the $5 asking price. I think my first playthrough took me a little over 5 hours, but your mileage may vary depending on how much you die. Let's do one more Rage platformer, and this was one I really enjoyed when I played it on its release in 2015 called Squirreltopia. All the squirrels have been kidnapped, and it's up to your little squirrel to rescue them. It is a precision platform with some really good level design and of course a high difficulty level, as a standard for games in this genre. What sets it apart is the huge emphasis on momentum. When you first move your little squirrel, he just kind of crawls ahead slowly. As you hold the D-pad, he accelerates. The length of your jumps is determined by how fast you're going. Navigating these levels, even under the best of circumstances, would be tricky, as there's hazards everywhere, but you always have to watch your speed. And I really like this, as it added a certain depth to the challenges. Like when you're judging your way past an obstacle, you have to take into account how far it is and judge your speed momentum accordingly. And if you're going against a long series of long jumps, you gotta keep going fast, because losing momentum means you're gonna miss the jumps. I thought the physics worked really well and gave this game a little something different than its peers. It's currently sitting with a mixed rating with 88 reviews, so maybe the game's not for everyone, but if you're looking for a precision platform that does something a little different, give it a whirl. Hell Yeah, which was released in 2012, developed by Arkido and published by Sega. You play as a little bunny on a quest for revenge against his name that has been wrongfully besmirched. I love the graphics in this game. There's absolutely beautiful sprite work with really cool detailed environments that hold up well today, which is really not that surprising. I think good sprite work is timeless. The gameplay is varied and full of puns and old game references. You have some basic platforming, but the bulk of the game has you riding this cool drill wheel. It's kind of like a hamster wheel, only with blades, and you get to cut things up as well as use a variety of ranged weapons. The boss battles tend to be pretty gimmicky, but they're fun and encompass a wide variety of different playstyles. You even get to pull off way over the top executions at the end, which are typically styled in WarioWare kind of micro games. It currently retails for $15, but you can pick it up on sale for a couple of bucks. It's a quirky game with a good sense of humor and nice varied gameplay. Definitely worth a look if you missed it when it was released 14 years ago. Primal Fears is a twin-stick shooter released in 2013. I'm not going to pretend that this is a fantastic hidden gem that you need to play. There are a bunch of flaws with this game, but I just have a soft spot for twin-stick shooters that are level-based rather than arena-based, and that's what this is. I think they nailed the graphics and the atmosphere. Everything is really dark and creepy. You have a flashlight, which adds to the tension and horror mood of the game. Controls are standard twin-stick fare, but you move slower when you're not moving in the direction you're facing. So if you're walking backwards and shooting forward, for example, your pace will be slowed down, which I think adds to the tension. On the downside, the enemies are definitely spongy, and there's this annoying mechanic where levels are unlocked through accumulating points, not just completing the prior level, meaning you'll have random times where you have to replay a whole level you just beat to proceed, and that's just stupid. Still, I enjoyed my time with this game, and it's dirt cheap, so if you like this genre as much as I do, you'll probably have some fun with it. The Metroidvania genre has really risen to prominence over the last couple of years. There are just tons of these games, and it feels like most players can't get enough. But our next game, Magicians and Looters, came out in 2014. Sure, there were still some prominent Metroidvanias out there, but the genre is not what it is today. So this game may not be as polished as many of its contemporaries, but it is still pretty fun. You play as a team of 3 wizards apprentices that you could swap between at save points, each with different strengths, weaknesses, and different abilities needed to access different areas. The gameplay is standard fare, but using the different characters gives the game a little more variety. There could be a few annoying parts where you don't have the right character, and you have to backtrack to the last save point in order to pass a part, but it's not too bad. The game also has a nice sense of humor. The whole game is campy and riddled with jokes. The tone is a nice departure from many of the darker games out there, and most of the jokes are at least worthy of a chuckle. There are definitely a few outdated features here that you probably would never run across in a modern day Metroidvania. Like for example, you cannot move the map when you're looking at it, so the map pops up relative to your position like it usually does, but you can't scroll around to look for new paths or rooms you might have missed. This is something that just wouldn't fly nowadays. At the same time, it's not a huge game, so it's not as big of a deal as it could have been. My first playthrough of this game took me a little under 3 hours, but what's there is fun, and the character switching mechanic is something a little different. The graphics are pretty hideous though, but if you can get past that, I think it's worth the time. Our last game is definitely the least known, sitting at 24 Steam reviews. Dream Tale is a short platformer released in 2014 about a little girl trying to rescue her dog. You play through 4 worlds, but the environments in this game are all kind of samey, so you won't see too much of a difference when you hit a new world. Levels are all pretty short and usually won't take more than 2 minutes or so to complete. You collect orbs for points. There are checkpoints in this game, but they don't save your points. I personally don't care about completion at all when I play games, so it didn't really bother me, but it's something to be aware of if that's your style. You also have to be on the lookout for keys needed to unlock the final level. You do not need to collect them all, so you do have some margin of error here. The platforming is a bit floaty since the whole thing takes place in space, but I adjusted pretty quickly. You get some cool power-ups that add some variety to the gameplay, like orbs that let you fly or hover. They are fun to collect and used often enough to keep the platforming interesting. This is a very short game. My first playthrough took me about 45 minutes, but what's here is fun and worth it for fans of linear platformers looking to play a game that nobody has ever heard of. So thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments which of these you have heard of and might want to check out.